Good morning, Griffins. So, welcome back to a new week. It's May, so that's a good thing. So, if we've got a warm-up to start with, so here are a couple of review problems. Why don't you guys go ahead and figure out these two problems. So when you do these two problems, we need to figure out what the values of y are. So when x is negative 2, remember that means I'm going to do 3 times negative 2 and then minus 1. So 3 times negative 2, negative 6 minus 1. So negative 7. So the ordered pair would be negative 2, negative 7. And then for when x is equal to 4, 3 times 4 minus 1, 12 minus 1 is 11, so the ordered pair would be 4, 11. The two intercepts are when x are equal to 0 and y is equal to 0. So the y-intercept is when x is equal to 0, x-intercept is when y is equal to 0. So I want when y is equal to 0, I have 2x is equal to 8. So divide both sides by 2, x will equal 4. The y-intercept is when x is equal to 0. That gives me y is equal to 8. So hopefully we're doing okay with those two concepts. We'll have a quiz on this probably one day next week. So moving on to our lesson for today, we are going to be covering slope. Slope is going to be really similar to the lesson we did last week on constant rate of change. So a slope, by definition, is a ratio of the vertical change, vertical, remember, is up and down, to the horizontal change of a line. So the symbol for slope is the letter M. So vertical change is y, so it's the difference of the y values, and we'll talk about what y2, y1, and x2, x1 is. And a lot of times we refer to slope as rise over run. So we're going to first of all figure out what the slope is from a graph. So we had said that it's rise over run, or the difference of y over difference of x. So we're given 2 points here. So what we're going to do is find how far up and how far over we go. So it does not matter which 2 points you start with. So if I start with this point and I go up, you need to first figure out how far up you went. So these points are all going by, the grid is going by 2, so I went up 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So my slope, which is m, is equal to 10. Now to go to this point here, I went backwards. So I went backwards 2, so that's a negative 2. So my slope would be 10 divided by negative 2, which is negative 5. Now, I could have gone a different way to do this one, and I could have started on the top and I could have gone down to go to the next point. So when I figure out the slope that way, I went down 10, but then I went to the right, or a positive 2. Negative 10 divided by 2, it still gives me a negative 5. So regardless of which point you start with, it's still the rise, how far up or down you go, over run, how far to the right or to the left you go. So we're going to find the slope of this point. So when we do this, again, rise over run, I went up, and this one is going by 1, so I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope is 4 over, and I went over 1, so I would say my slope is 4. Now, if you have a slope that's a mixed number, that's an improper fraction, leave it as an improper fraction, because I want to know how far up and how far over you go. If it's a whole number, then write it as a whole number. Don't change a slope, though, to a mixed number. Okay, so this is your practice problem. You need to figure out what the slope is for this line. Go ahead. So you can pick any 2 points on this line. I'm going to use a lighter color so we could see it a little bit better. I've got a point here, here, and here. Now it doesn't matter which 2 points I go to. So if I just go how far up, how far over? I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope is 4 over. And I went over 1, 2, 4 over 2. So my slope is 2. Now, I could have also gone and done this where I used the two other points, and I could have gone up to here. So I went up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my slope would have been 8 over, and I'd go over to the right 1, 2, 3, 4 over 4, and it still gives me a slope of 2. So rise over run. Remember, you're either going to write the fraction as a whole number or write it as an improper fraction. Don't write it as a mixed number. Okay, so those were finding slope when you were given a graph. Now, we had said that we have this equation, y2 minus y1 equals x2 minus y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. The 2 and the 1 mean 0.1 and 0.2, and it doesn't matter which one you say is 0.1 and 0.2. Because we're going to be doing subtraction, I try to make the bigger numbers be 0.2, because then I deal with more positive numbers. So if I say that this is 0.1 and this is 0.2, my slope will be y2 minus y1. So I need to find the y values of this. So this is 3 minus 1 divided by, now I'm going to do the x values, 7 minus 2. So 3 minus 1 gives me 2, 7 minus 2 gives me 5. So my slope is 2/5. Now, if I had decided to do this the opposite way, and I said that this is 0.2 now and this is 0.1, I would have had y2 minus y1, so I would have had 1 minus 3 divided by 2 minus 7. So that gives me negative 2 divided by negative 7. Divided by negative 5. Negative divided by negative is a positive, so it still gives me the answer of 2/5. So it really doesn't matter which point you say, you just need to be consistent. So if you notice this 3 and 7, they are both at the same point. This 2 and 1 are both the same point. So they're either both first or they're both second. So they need to correspond with each other. Okay, so when we are doing slope, remember just like when we had the constant rate of change, we had 4 different kind of slopes. Well, we have, just like we had before, we have a positive slope which goes in that direction. We have a negative slope going in that direction. We have a horizontal, or we had said no change before, that's m is equal to 0. Now we're going to add a fourth one this time, and it's a vertical line, and that's called a no slope or an undefined slope. That's the answer. You can't just leave it blank because there isn't a slope. The answer is no slope, or you can say it's undefined. Okay, but leaving it blank would mean like you don't know what the answer is. And the reason we didn't do this when we had a constant rate of change is because constant rate of change would be a function and a vertical line is not a function. So I'm going to ask you to do 3 practice problems to figure out what the slope is. So here's your first practice problem. So the slope on this one, and again it doesn't matter which one you do first, I'm just going to say that this is 1 and this is 2. So I have negative 9 minus 3 divided by 4 minus, now this is where you need to be very careful, it's minus a negative 6. Because you have the minus there and you have the negative. Minus a negative is going to make this one plus a positive. So I have negative 12 divided by 10, so this will be negative 6/5. Now it doesn't matter if you put the negative with the 6, or you can put the negative in front of the fraction, negative 6/5. So there's the first practice problem. Here's your second practice problem. So in this problem, I have the slope is equal to, oops, that's the slope, is equal to 4 minus 4 minus 5 over 5 minus 3, so 0 over 2. Now you got to remember, are you allowed to have a 0 in the numerator or a 0 in the denominator? So since this is 0 in the numerator, this is equal to 0. If I had had a 0 in the denominator, you cannot divide by 0, so that would have been an example of a no slope. And then your last practice problem, finding the slope. So we have m is equal to negative 3 minus 7 over 5 minus 5. This is going to give me negative 10 over 0. And then this would be an example of a no slope. Okay, so those are your 3 practice problems. You do have a homework. It is a worksheet. And because today is Tuesday, this is going to be due on Friday. Like I said, we probably have a quiz next week. It'll be on slope, and what we're going to be talking about on Thursday, whether something's a function. All of this is going to be on a quiz for next week. So, oh, sorry, you also have Prodigy to do. So I appreciate all the